Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Tarek El Gindi with the Mr. Olympia. Today, we're going to talk about the Romania Muscle Fest and the Prague show. I brought the mind here. He is replacing Bob Cicarillo, who never won a pro show. I decided to bring somebody that actually has won a pro show as a bodybuilder, somebody that has actually coached people rather than just grab the mic on a stage to join us. His name is the Mind Milo Sarchev.
Hey, Derek. I look like Bob, right? Only better.
No, you don't. You look in better shape than Bob.
There you go, Bob.
And also with us, he's a huge correspondent in Europe. His name is AJ Kelly Robert. I just love his voice when he does the Instagram, and he's got his voice. I think is awesome. How are you, AJ?
Great. Just came from Romania and Prague, after a show. You're a little bit tired, but you're excited with adrenaline from the show. So you hit the gym harder and you're excited for the next show.
My question to you guys, I want to start with you, Milos. Yeah. Let's go straight to the point.
Okay.
Tell me why Martin Fitzwater beat Christopher Bumstead.
Okay, as I told you previously, and I mentioned this in a few podcasts, the biggest difference between classic physique and open bodybuilding is two-dimensional against three-dimensional look. The thickness and roundness of muscle bellies that open division bodybuilders have many times is not as visible, as obvious to the people they're watching online in the 2D platforms, on the videos and the pictures and all that stuff. So they're just going for that first impression, shape, structure. And we have Chris Bumstead with the one of the best structures ever, most beautiful physiques ever. So of course it's very easy to be a fan of C-Bum until you really start dissecting pose by pose and everything that is revealing on the stage. Steve Weinberger was there, the best judge of all time, who judged for about 40 years, probably 1,000 shows. So all of us, even though we know what we are looking at, we can't be at the level of a precision that Steve has. So for me, I tell you, AJ was there, Chris Cormier was there. I was with Dennis James watching. He was in his house and I was in a hotel streaming, and we were getting ideas. Before the show, okay, I sent to Jake Hutler, to Dennis, to Chris, my predictions that Chris Bumstead is going to win first three poses. He's going to win front of biceps, lat spread, and side chest. From what I know of Chris, that he can create that illusion, that crazy width, super small waist. It's super impressive in those shots. He had a separated quads, not enough volume, but can this pass? I was thinking that probably he can. And when I was watching with Dennis, I see the front relax. I mean, you can't help but draw your eyes to Chris Bumstead. He's just like sight to see. And for me, front relax pose should be way more valued. Looking good just standing there without posing, right? That's your true physique. From double biceps, even though Chris doesn't have a big arms, he has a short biceps and he can be dissected there. You kind of don't even see it. Once he lifts his arms, he flows so perfectly with a super small waist. I mean, he could not hit that pose better with enough separation, that beautiful lines. Could he win that shot? Possibly. I'm going to cut back to that. Then when he opens up that lat spread, I don't know if anybody has that differential from waist to the lats to the shoulders, right? In that pose, let me just go back to the front double biceps. Front double biceps is not such a 3D shot. It's more 2D shot, right? You don't see the thickness of the chest and the thickness of the lats. You just see the width. So this he could battle with the Martin. Lat spread, on the other hand, even though he is wide, and if you shut the lights and you look at the silhouette, he can win. But when you turn the lights on and you see the thickness of the pecs and the delts and and the thickness of the legs of the Martin, I changed my mind. I would go to the Martin. And then going into the side chest, you see, side chest pose, from the side, his legs, Chris's legs, were not so much smaller than Martin's also. And he has those beautiful lines. You can hide a smaller arm, so therefore you could go to oh, look at this picture. this would kill my argument right away. Yeah, because Martin is here, very dominant, right? So in any way, Chris was there, AJ were there, and they get much better idea of what was happening, right? I just make the statement: most beautiful physique, yes. Most popular guy, best stage presence ever. He's born for the stage. He delivers. He interacts with the audience. He interacts with judges. I'm sure if you look at him, you always have a guy that you want to look at. And he goes into the pose right away. He hits first, he comes out last. No wasted moves, not like any amateurish looking down, looking away. He just boom, 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 boom. Mr. Olympia in a making, right? But he's going to the open division that he's going to be out muscle.
Now, AJ, you were there. First of all, we want to welcome here the legend himself, Chris Cormier, 4-time Ironman champion, 1993 Mr. USA. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
AJ, you were there. What did you think Martin Fitzwater versus Christopher Bumstead?
So I came in with a little bit of thinking. I saw Milos and Sean Ray, and also Dennis. And Cormier also, like, expecting it to be really close going in, based off what Milos just said. The front poses, the detail, the crazy conditioning. He's taller, very aesthetic. So I was thinking, even though they were saying it, I said, no, it can't be true. Martin is an open bodybuilder. He's so much bigger. He's so much thicker. That was my mindset going in. So when I saw the show, it completely changed. It was like, because when Bumstead came out, first of all, my hat's off to you and Weinberger, because judging that type of environment, to not be biased with the crowd, that takes a lot. Because when I was sitting there, when he came out, the entire audience just went nuts for Bumstead. They were screaming, they were shouting, and he had that like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant look, when he came out, and he had the crowd. So for Weinberger and all the judges to not react to that, that takes a lot, because the more I was looking, my eyes were drawn to Bumstead because of what Milos just said, the detail, the like, you don't even notice the arms were smaller because he had so much else going on. So even though you saw the pictures that Martin has bigger arms, but when you were watching it, you weren't really thinking about the arms to Bumstead. So when they turned around, that's when things was different, and Martin way better from the back. You can see the back, the thickness was a lot better, but Martin was a little bit off for prejudging. He did a big mistake with the tan. It wasn't, I don't know what happened with the tan, and you really saw it, and something happened to his hamstrings, I believe, so he couldn't pose properly. We didn't know that, but he was getting annoyed, facial expressions, while Bumstead was getting more and more confident, and Bumstead was never moved from the middle. So naturally, for us, was thinking Bumstead was leading, but I wasn't 100% sure Bumstead was leading. But I even texted Martin after prejudging and asked, so what are you thinking? Like, what are we doing? And he was like, I'm going to come back better for the finals. And remember, we didn't know Martin was leading with a perfect score at the time. So for me, for prejudging, it appeared that Bumstead was leading, but I was thinking Martin could turn it around, but I didn't know it was a perfect score the entire time. But looking back at it, the thickness of Martin is from the back, and you can see it in the pictures. It comes more alive in the pictures there, but on stage, you know, with the crowd, it was a little bit different for me. So,
Okay. You want to compliment?
Chris?
Chris, what you were there. You're actually the ambassador of the show. They brought you on stage to give the awards. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
You know, you did look good on stage giving the awards. You know, I hate giving you compliments. Most of the times you don't deserve any compliments, but I was happy for you. What did you think? Martin versus Christopher Bumstead.
Well, I was sitting there with AJ, you know, even the night before, and we were kind of, you know, talking about what we think might happen, just like everybody else in the whole world. You know, it was quite a environment, just like AJ said, and maybe that has something to do with it, but all I know is like we were sitting there like we saw something that's probably never happened again. And I mean, to be honest, you know, you got Sean on the one side, excuse me, Martin on the other side, and then you got Bumstead standing there. And I mean, from where we were sitting, he was holding his own with size. I didn't see a big difference in the size. All I saw, I mean, even the last spread from the back, I was like, well, shit, you know, he's right there with him, thinking I was going to be a big discrepancy in physiques and styles. I didn't know how he even was going to go about hitting the shot of a last spread from the back. But I'm telling you, Martin posing, I mean, to me, I would have been, you know, if that was somebody I was just spent, you know, time with coaching, I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you doing some stuff that is making you look worse than I ever saw you pose before. And this is not the time to not be focused on your posing. So that's what I was thinking. And you see Bumstead do right here in the shot right here, the front last spread. When you do a vacuum and you do all the different things to your physique to increase everything, all your attributes, all the cuts are deep and precise. And then you got Martin struggling to get the front last spread. Shoulders are not in the right place. And, you know, multiple shots he was doing this. And I couldn't put my finger on why. But now, like AJ said, he had hurt his hamstring. But I didn't know. All I saw was backstage, he was visibly upset, you know, pounded the table, like pissed, and he was talking to boss man. He was not happy. And like I said, I went to go take a photo with him. I have the photo, but he was really tense and he wasn't happy. And nobody circled around him after the prejudging. No one, it was not like, oh man, you just knocked out Bumstead and he's over there probably soaking in his sweats. No, all the energy was on Bumstead.
So you thought that after prejudging, Chris Bumstead had won the show?
I did think that, yeah.
He texted me that. I was asking.
I thought he won it. I thought he won it. And like I said, all the different things. You got the color is off. You got the posing is off. And it looked like he appeared to hold water, and maybe he held water from all the cortisol shot up, you know, being in pain with the hamstring. I don't know about what time that, you know, he suffered this shot, but apparently from a back shot, twisting his leg.
That's nice explanation. Listen, that's nice explanation. But come on, cortisol could not shoot in 13 seconds or less.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was understanding what was said, you know.
Yeah.
But he was sweating profusely. Bumstead was getting harder. He was going back the other way. His body was not going the way of getting harder and looking better and better and better. He was looking worse and worse and worse. So I thought he won it.
Perfect. And we have a IBB judge. Derek is great. So I want to actually ask you about this thing. But before that, AJ mentioned something very important. The level of popularity of Chris Bumstead is at the level of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, you mentioned Kobe and somebody else. Steve Weinberger says this is like watching Michael Jackson perform or Elvis Presley. I mean, going nuts. So you're giving a credit to Steve. Of course, Steve is ultimate professional. So we can be moved with the reaction of the audience. Like, oh my, first it's Chris Bumstead. As Jake Cutler said, maybe that's the best Chris Bumstead we've ever seen. I think the 2022 Olympia, maybe it was a little bit sharper and it was bigger, and 2022 or 21.
That was his best. 2022 was
the
best Bumstead.
Yeah, but this, that fullness, when he fill up the frame a little bit more, it's probably even more appealing. But so we go with the flow with his Bumstead is popular. He delivered it. He is better conditioned. He had a better shape, better aesthetics. So you're leading all into it, but you're not Steve Weinberger that's gonna breathe out. And what are we watching here? It's not the classic physique. It is still a muscle show. It's muscle density, thickness, roundness, and all that stuff. Now, my question to you, Tarek, that I think Steve Weinberger already touched it. Yeah, when they see somebody sweating and, oh my God, this is it, this is over. It's still the same physique. Okay, he's sweating a little bit, so what's the big deal? The muscle is still there, shape is still there, thickness, size, everything is there. You're losing in conditioning department, few points, whatever, but is this enough to overtake the whole physique? As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, there was many instances, like 98 Olympia, when Ronnie Coleman was fourth comparison initially, nowhere, not in top 6. And then he started kind of sweating. And each round he was sweating more. By the end of the prejudging, he looked crazy. So sweating actually helped him look better.
Yeah, Milos. But the thing is, I would sweat and I would get harder as the show was going. Martin was going the opposite way.
Yeah, okay. But I watched, so I'm cheating. I watched last night the Fuad questioning Steve Weinberger, and Steve was going into great details, which was great. And Steve was still saying, yeah, he was, what did he say? Sweating like a lunatic. Yeah, that was his word. But still, it's still the same physique. Yeah, he's losing a little bit in conditioning, and also not enough to lose the show. It's still 3-dimensional muscle building, because Martin has a shape. He has a V-taper. He has a round muscle bellies. He's formidable from the side chest, side triceps, and the back, So listen, I'm hashtag bodybuilder. I'm not hashtag muscle builder. I always want to shape. But like we were saying, before, your physique, Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, Kevin Leveroni, I would give you guys over Dorian Yates anytime, until I go there and watch the show, and I said, damn, I have to go with Dorian. You know what I mean? With all my love for aesthetics and shape and all that stuff, when you bring all that is bodybuilding,
And my question to you is guys, is this. I thought Chris Bumstead won the front double biceps and the front lat spread. And then I thought Martin won all the other poses. To me, if I was sitting there, I would have given to Martin winning the show. I would give Chris the feedback. You need to add a lot more density on your upper body. You need to add thickness to your back. You need to get your arms bigger. But Chris is a phenomenal bodybuilder, classic physique, bodybuilder, whatever you want to call it. But if you really want to be objective here, this picture that we're looking here is Chris Bumstead's back double biceps, which is a very good back double biceps in classic physique. But in bodybuilding, this is not an overwhelming back double biceps. This is not if he poses next to Derek Lunsford's back double biceps, he's not going to look impressive. Martin has thickness on the back, but he still misses a little bit of detail. And Martin really had him from the back. Like I said, Chris has tremendous aura about him. He is the master of posing. He is incredible. You give him the feeling that he is Michael Jordan going on stage. But this back lat spread, if you put him right next to Hadi Chupin, this back lat spread is not very overwhelming in open bodybuilding. He is small. And I'm going to quote what Milos, I want you to talk about 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned that. That's the biggest difference, right? And for all the fans watching on Instagram and YouTube and everything else and pictures, and oh my God, like, you are not there. You don't see that volumization, the roundness, the thickness that you were saying. As good as he looked alone in this pose, stand him next to the thick Martin Fitzwater with the thick lats, with the bubbly, back, thick legs, from back. He's going to lose in that muscle department. He would lose to, you mentioned Derek. Anybody's going to lose back double biceps next to Derek, right? Hadi Chopin or anybody else. So as much as we love Chris, he is classic champion. And it was super gutsy of him to enter this show when he knows Martin Fitzwater placing fourth, potentially being even third. Chris Cormier went as far as saying he could maybe be even second, which Steve Weinberger says, don't push it that far, right? But listen, for this Bumstead to come to be challenging Martin Fitzwater, that's like a super gutsy move, and I commend him for it. And you never know. Okay, see, AJ and you were sold. You would give him the first place after prejudging, and you're experts. You're not like.
And he was also posing weird, though. You're not taking that into account.
Okay, so Chris, while you're a perfectionist in the posing, and you do every angle, everything is in the right place. Well, he was, I guess, injured his hamstring, and he couldn't really position himself perfectly. He was doing a good job.
But
you know
the whole time, bro. It was not just when he injured his hamstring, because that was later on. But it was a whole time he was posing weird to me, and I didn't understand why. And if we're gonna go off that that psychology of bodybuilding, then Sean Clarita could have been second then.
Sean Clarita has a narrow.
He was more thickly muscled than Chris. Then, if you want to call it that way, it's just that it didn't appear that way when you're sitting there. Not to me.
AJ,
I want to say I thought Chris might be leading prejudging, but I thought that Martin's going to come back better for the next day and win, because his back was still so dominant. I thought he's going to come back better like he did, and I thought he's going to win the finals and win the whole show. I didn't think it was that far, but I didn't know it was perfect score for both days.
Yeah,
so
right. That's what I'm saying.
So he came back better and he won. I think it was a fair judging. Of course, I think he deserved the win, but I did think Bumstead was leading prejudging, and Martin came back better and won the whole show. But when you look at the scorecards, he was also leading. And when you think about bodybuilding criteria, as we've seen it, that's like you said, that's why Samson Dauda didn't win before the Olympia with Hardy and Derek. He is more impressive, but this bodybuilding criteria they had with the conditioning and the dents, then he lost that. But it was really close. But I did not have Sean Clarita close to the top two.
Well, here's a picture of the night show. And again, as a judge, I would have Chris Bumstead winning the front double biceps and the front lat spread. But I would give all the other poses to Martin Fitzwater. When it comes to sweating, let me tell you, if you're up close to the competitors, they're all sweating. I've never seen a competitor that didn't have a little bit of sweat on him. Some of them, they sweat a lot more, and that can be detrimental to their conditioning. That can be detrimental to their presentation. But, you know, I've seen guys sweat and get harder. I've also seen guys sweat and get worse. Ramon, at prejudging, he was sweating and he got worse. We kind of saw that he wasn't as lean as he was the previous year. And then it almost felt like the sweating was him getting the rest of the water out of his body. But, you know, Ronnie Coleman sweat and he won the Olympia because you couldn't argue with that size, whether he was sweating, crying, dancing. You know what I mean? It was just too big. Now, here are pictures of Martin Fitzwater for the finals. Based on the pictures, and looking at the pictures is really a speculation. You got to be there. But based on the pictures, Milos, AJ, and Chris, he looks significant better for the finals. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, Touch, we talked to his coach, and coach actually think that he was just as good as Olympia, which is not the case. Obviously, at Olympia, he was way better. You know, so he had a touch of water and smoothness, and as Chris was saying, he didn't hit the poses correctly. So the overall impact was not like so dominant, right? But he was touched better, color was better here, and yeah. You know. But I'll tell you this sometimes, and I've heard you, AJ, also. Sometimes you guys get like so excited and like, oh my God, he's like so much better. Like it's like night and day difference. And sometimes it's like a hair of difference, but you get that impression. And then right away, then you're commentators, the whole world is listening to you, Jazz especially. He said, one year he was telling me about the Becruz, like at the finals, oh, he came so much better. Oh my God, what did you do? Nothing. He did not eat or drink. He just lay down and went back to stage, right? It was hardly any difference. But when you get in that machine and you start talking, you're directing everybody else to think that way. So you know, it's just like one of my comments that I've seen. Would Martin Sunday beat Martin on Saturday? Yes, by a hair. Yeah, that's what I think. And Chris, just to tell you this, we all love Sean Clarita, giant killer and everything. But first, you see the height and the width and the frame, right? Which is big thing about the symmetry, aesthetics, proportion, V-taper, X-frame, and everything else. If you look, just focus on the muscle, who is more dense than you know, this is next level conditioning and, you know, like William Boniak kind of density. But he still has to open up. He has to have a wide shoulders and a V-taper and a thick chest, which he doesn't have. So if you just focus on a partial things, okay, yeah. Stefan thought that Sean could beat Chris. I mean, it's a little bit biased coach, right? And again, which directions? The good thing is here is 212, classic physique, and an open, looking that they belong together on the same stage. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was not like, oh, they're like misplaced here.
So, Milos, what you're saying is that you incentivize competitors from different categories to cross over and try it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we all want more beautiful bodybuilding, right? We all want classic lines with enough muscles like Samson, like Regan, like Andrew Jack. That's what we would like. Bring back the beauty, right? So classic guys like Matthias, German guy.
Hellback.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
That's his name.
No, Hellback.
Is that his name? I hate to mispronounce his name. I don't want to go to hell and come back because I mispronounced this
Definitely not
guy's
that.
Listen,
Hellback. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing.
Not that.
Mike the Badass would fit very good here, right? So, and would it be enough? I mean, so when we look at from the aspect, okay, let's look the shape, aesthetics, structure. We could go all day long with the classic guys, okay? But hold on. Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier. Okay, let's look at Dorian Yates. Okay, so I would not intensify or whatever you said. I forgot the word you used.
Incentivize.
I would encourage. Why don't you? I mean, Sean Clarita was Mr. Olympia 212, and he showed up in Reno. He wanted to challenge himself. Why not? Chris Bumstead wanted a challenge on a open division. It's beautiful. It makes it interesting. You guys were there. Probably Prague is one of the most memorable shows you've ever been to.
Yeah.
I missed out on, Steve Weinberger said in his 40
exciting.
years, he never experienced anything like it.
It was exciting. The crowd was super loud, and it was crazy, electric environment. To be in, and I was like, I don't know.
So,
Crazy.
Chris, Broderick, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I want you to lose some followers.
No, I'm not following.
Broderick, Christopher Cormier from Palmdale, California. Don't even try to say you're from Palm Springs, bro. You're from Palmdale, okay? Chris, if Chris Bumstead shows up at this past Olympia with this physique, which I think his bodybuilding look makes his leg look bigger. I love his look. Where would he placed? If he gave Martin Fitzwater a run for his money, would he have been 5th, 6th, 7th? Where would he place? And I'm going to ask all of you guys this question.
It's hard to tell because the way, what my eyes was reading and what Weinberger was saying is a little bit of two different things, because I'm looking at all the little attributes that Chris displayed. I'm looking at the lats, how it's coming down to right where his rib cage starts, and that whole lat spread to the front thing. Like those attributes was not very easily put together. It's been, it's been over time. You never really see a physique like that. And I was surprised from the back with the width that he displayed, and the precisiveness of the poses and everything was generated and executed perfectly. And I was like, damn, then I'm seeing this guy struggling with the pose. I'm like, I'm pretty old school with that, man. I'm like, you're losing that shot.
So okay, Chris, maybe you disagree with the judging. You had Chris Bumstead beating.
I'm just saying that at the pre-judging, I didn't see the night show was obviously a different show.
No, don't back down right now, Chris. You're either a man with testicles or you're not. If you disagree with the judging, that's fine. You won't be the first one, and you won't be the last one. Trust me. Steve Weinberger and I and Sandy and none of us are going to lose weight over you disagreeing with the judges. But if you do, would he have finished in 3rd at the Olympia? 2nd? Where do you place him at the Olympia?
Maybe 4th.
4th. Okay. AJ, I know you're going to be a lot more assertive than Chris Cormier. Where would he finish at the Mr. Olympia?
So Andrew Jack was 6th, correct? And 5th, and Hunter was 6th.
Yeah.
Who was 7th again? Bonak.
No, I would have been 5th. I meant 5th. I think he would have placed behind him. I meant 5th, is what I meant.
Well, so then you agree with the judges that Martin was better than him.
If you're looking at Martin at the Olympia, yeah, he was better.
Okay, yeah, okay. I got your point. No, you make sense, Chris. You like that Martin at the Olympia better than this Martin, and you think Chris would not have beaten that Martin. Okay, AJ, sorry to interrupt. It was one of the few times Chris made sense, and I wanted to bring that to emphasis. Go ahead, AJ.
I asked Martin also, how do you rate this physique? He said, my Sunday look here was similar to the Olympia, he said. I don't know if he just says it because he truly means it, or but I gotta take his word for it. He said it was similar to the Olympia. I don't know. You guys were there. Chris, was it similar to the Olympia?
Not in my eyes. I mean, when he hit that crab, I thought he had like the best crab on the whole stage. You know, I didn't see that same graininess in the front and when he hit his crab. I saw his abs. I mean, it was better the second day, but the first day and those quads, the first day I saw him close up both times. He showed them to me both times, and I was way more impressed in Vegas than I was here.
We talked about the last day, not the first day though.
Right, not the first day.
Yeah. Well, based on this, I'll probably have Bumstead after Hunter and beating Bonac.
Okay.
I don't see how you can lose prejudging with perfect score, and because of the size and the density of Martin. And Hunter, he's big, he's hard, he's got a lot of dense muscle, freaky muscle, and if he can't beat Martin here with it wasn't even close on the scorecard.
Right.
It was lights out when you look at the results. So I think he would have beaten Bonac because of some small issues maybe, but Hunter I think he would beat. So I would have Bumstead with this look in 7th.
Okay.
Milos.
With the 7th position, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. But AJ, this is most important, not just for you to realize, but everybody that is listening. When they see the perfect score, they say, "Oh, that's lights out, like killing. That's not even close." So if 4 of us, let's put it this way: now 4 of us are judging, and we are all like we are just there. But okay, Tarek I'm gonna still give it to Martin. For me, he was close, but I'm gonna still go with Martin, right? And you, the same thing. It's like it can be flip of the coin, but there is something that would lead you towards Martin. And now all of a sudden, it's perfect score. All 4 of us judging for Martin. It's like Chris wasn't even in competition. Tarek, as a judge, have to make a decision first, second, third, right? And many times, and I guarantee you that's the case. First round, Tarek can even give a front double biceps to one guy. Second time they do a round, that guy doesn't squeeze the legs. And okay, you know what? Now I can give it to the other guy, which I try to judge, a few times and I've seen it, I promise you. And then you start changing. Like, hold on a second. The same guy, same pose, but now I'm seeing different. And that's why Steve and Tarek and judges are going another round. And then you can, base your opinion on the multiple comparisons and analyzing the body. So when you say straight first, it's not like lights out. It's way better. It could be just this much better.
And if you look at Chris Bumstead, in my personal opinion, and again, we're speculating because it's pictures, he did beat Martin on the front double biceps and the front lat spread. And then another thing that people tend to ignore is it's not only by how much you beat, right? Milos and I were talking about a competitor that he is very good, but his back double biceps is not good at all. So he really gets beaten bad on the back double biceps. It's not by how much Chris is beating Martin on the front double biceps, is by how much. I mean, it's not just beating, is how much is he beating, right? Jay Cutler beat Ronnie Coleman on the abdominals and thighs. Was that like 10-8? Was that 10-9? Or was that 10-5, right? So you got to quantify by how much a guy has dominated a pose. I do believe Chris has beaten Martin on the front double biceps and front lat spread. Is it a 10-6? No. I think it's kind of a 10-8. And I think at finals, you could very well say that Chris beat Martin 10-9 on those poses. So the difference here is small. And you can also quantify and say Martin has beaten Chris Bumstead on the side chest, but it's not like Martin devastated Chris on the side chest. It was only a victory by 10-9, right? But if you have here Samson Dauda posing right next to Chris Bumstead, then I'm going to say Chris Bumstead is going to lose that side chest about 10-7. Now the difference has increased on how dominant the competitor was on that certain pose. Okay. So there's also a quantification of how much you have beaten a competitor on certain pose. Ronnie Coleman on the back lat spread, he beat everybody by a lot. But Ronnie Coleman on the abdominals and thighs, he lost to a lot of people, maybe by a little or by a lot. People have to understand there's quantification of poses. How much have you dominated that competitor in a certain pose?
Okay, you talk about side chest. So AJ and Chris, look at this side chest.
That's the one we're looking at, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right now. Now cover the upper body, right? Look at the legs. Okay, this is, to dissect. Chris has a more detail, obviously. A little bit less size, but definitely more detail. Oh, Landa Murray is okay. So you know what I mean. Then look at the chest. Right pec is way more striated on Chris Bumstead. Right? Yeah. So you want to talk about conditioning and lines and and fullness obviously is in Martin's favor, but is this really by that much, and does it offset? And this is a little bit angled photo, so not really from straight, which Chris Bumstead looks perfect when you do this straight. I mean, for me, there is an argument that Chris could possibly win this pose. I wouldn't be like Chris Cormier said, he didn't like out muscle him like night and day. Yeah, he's thicker. Okay. His shoulders are more compact. Steve Weinberger did mention smallish arms in this pose for Chris Bumstead. That could be a major factor. But Tarek, you're the judge, right? Would it be completely wild to give Chris Bumstead side chest? Or
it would be close. I definitely would agree with Steve. It looks like Chris Bumstead's arms are a little bit streamlined compared to Martin Fitzwater. What's really catching my attention here as a judge is just the fullness on the chest and shoulders. That's the first thing I would pay attention. I would look at Martin and Chris and go, wow, Martin has a fullness on the chest and shoulders that Chris doesn't. Then I would look at the quads, right? Do you see how round it looks like? Martin's quads are fuller than Chris's quads. Now, Chris, when he hits this pose in classic physique, man, it's over. Nobody comes close to him. But here's, and I always predicted this. People ask me, if Chris Bumstead goes to the Open, what would happen? I'll tell you what would happen. He would be similar to Raphael Brandao. Raphael Brandao is beautiful. He looks incredible. But when Raphael poses next to some of these guys have just a bit more density. And I talked to Raphael after the Olympia. He looked a lot better at the Arnold. When Raphael, Martin, and Hunter Labrada were on the diagonal, right? They were on the diagonal, and we brought in a Samson, Hadi, and Derek. I took a look at Martin, Hunter, and Raphael. And my feedback to Raphael was, when you were right there on the diagonal next to Martin and Hunter just had a density to them on the chest and shoulders that you don't have, that you need to have. And that's exactly what would have happened to Chris at the Olympia. That density counts, and it counts a lot. And then there's this huge argument about, height matters. Height matters. No, it doesn't. Hadi Chupin won the Olympia. Derek Lunsford won the Olympia. Brandon Curry won the Olympia. You would argue that historically speaking, shorter bodybuilders have a better ability to look more compact than taller bodybuilders. Most of the bodybuilders we've had, with exception of Arnold Schwarzenegger, they've all been under 6 feet tall. Dorian was 5'11". Ronnie was 5'11". Jay is 5'9". Dexter is 5'8". Hadi Chupin, Derek Lunsford. Samson is possibly the second bodybuilder in the history of the sport to be over 6 feet tall. So I think, density in the side poses. And I was really impressed by Martin on the back poses. You can really tell on the back poses, there's a thickness to him that's very impressive. And I'm going to bring here the pictures. Let me see if I can get them both together, right? So Martin doesn't have great detail on the back. He doesn't. He needs to improve a little bit more detail. Maybe he could be tighter. But do you guys notice the thickness of his back compared to Chris?
Big difference on stage, live also.
I mean, that's just a much thicker back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's thickness to that back. That's like the first time Dorian Yates competed against Mohammed bin Aziza at the Night of Champions. Dorian Yates was not known for his back. After prejudging, Dorian Yates looked at the pictures and said, I lost the show. He looked at the thickness of Mohammed bin Aziza and he said, this is the kind of back I need to have in order to be competitive with these guys. And the rest is history.
But he hired who? The Menser brothers. Mike Menser helped Dorian understand how to build his back, because that wasn't the case at the beginning.
Derek, I want to ask AJ now, because I agree with him. I would put Chris Bumstead 7th, but that means that both you and I put him ahead of Raphael Brandao, who plays 8th.
Based off his, I think not if Brandao showed up like the Arnold, but like he did at the Olympia, yeah.
So, Derek, you're the judge. Chris could not beat Andrew Jack from the Olympia because it's very similar structure, even wider, way more muscle, conditioning slightly out. It doesn't matter. So Andrew would beat him for sure. Hunter Labrada, especially the way he looked on Friday. Holy shit. On Friday, I think Hunter was very competitive with Martin.
Yeah.
It was okay. He has that thickness. So I don't see Chris being able to, break Labrada also. Bonyak, possibly, because Bonyak it's structurally, right? Narrow, dense and all that stuff. Chris is so much wider. So front relaxed, front lat spread. Yeah, he would open up and, could be very, very competitive. But the biggest regret for me is not seeing Raphael Brandao going to Prague. You know him, Tarek. How can somebody like this, that was compared to Chris for years, how many times have you seen comparisons, Classic Physique Open, Raphael and Chris, like so many times. You're in the best shape of your life. You win the Romania, and 6 days later, you can compete against, top Martin Fitzwater, to, get the judges to look at you right there and compare you. Like you said, you watch them at the diagonal, and you see, okay, it's still close. You need to improve this and that. So Raphael a little bit better than Olympia, Martin a little bit worse, and now you showed up. Imagine he beats him.
Milos, you bring up a really good point, because I saw Raphael at the Olympia, and I was a bit disappointed with him. But then he was significantly better in Romania, but he wasn't as good as the Arnold. At the Arnold Classic, Raphael was lights out, and I think he would have beaten Chris Bumstead here if he showed up how he showed up at the Arnold. How he showed up at Romania, it would have been a hell of a fight. A hell of a fight. If he showed up as he did at the Olympia, Chris would have beaten him. It's interesting because I've done lives with Chris Bumstead, and Chris Bumstead said, listen, I think, if I did the Open, I would have a physique similar to Raphael. And, I agree with you guys that Chris would have been 7th, 6th, maybe 8th, which is exactly where Raphael landed, even though he wasn't at his best. Maybe if he showed up like he did in Romania, he would have been 6th and 7th. What happened in Prague is what all the experts predicted, that Chris Bumstead was going to look beautiful, but it was going to miss some of the density, and that he would be similar to Raphael Brandao. Beautiful lines, great conditioning, but missing a little bit of mass. And he would finish at the Olympia where basically Raphael Brandao finished. And I got to give credit to Steve Weinberg. I know Steve for a long time. I've been with Steve in Brazil when there's like 10,000 people screaming. Steve Weinberger does not care if anybody or nobody is screaming for a competitor. He's going to look at what he believes is the best competitor, and he's going to place ahead. And I think Steve did a perfect job. Now, I'm going to make a prediction here to all of you guys. Chris Bumstead is not done with his career, okay? Chris Bumstead is not done. I don't care what
he's selling tickets now. You're selling tickets to the O, huh?
No, I want to look at the camera and say, Chris Bumstead is not done with bodybuilding. He is going to take 1 year or 2 years off, and then he is going to ask for an invitation to do the Mr. Olympia. He's going to show up and shock the world. I'm saying this in November 2024. We could very well see Chris Bumstead in 2026 or 2027 at the Open Mr. Olympia. I believe this is what's going to happen. And if it does, you know me, Chris, I'm going to be telling the entire world I was right.
Yeah, well, you judged the Romanian show. Like you saw Ramon going against Horace, going against...
No, I saw Raphael going against Horace.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Raphael. So what did you see there that wasn't there at the Olympia? You said that he looked better.
He looked a little bit more, he looked a little bit fuller. I think he came in a little bit flat at the Olympia, and he lost a little bit of the fullness on top, Raphael. And I think he was a bit fuller at the Romania Muscle Fest. Was he as good as the Arnold? No. At the Arnold, he was right there with Hadi and Samson. I mean, Raphael has the ability to really move up if he comes in at his best. It's a mystery because him and Hunter, if they ever nail, you know what I mean, they can shock the world. So,
yeah, the same thing though. It's hard coming from an Arnold Classic, and then you're gonna nail it again at the Olympia. It's very hard to do.
And again, Chris, you and I, we've done Olympia battles, right? We sit to have dinner with these guys, right? We sat and we had steak at Flamingo Steakhouse with Jake, with everybody. Chris Bumstead was there, Ramon, Wesley Vissers, they're all there, right? And then you and I sat next to Nick Walker, Samson Dauda, and Derek. Remember for Olympia battle?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, they're different beings, man. They're different human beings, right?
In which sense?
Their
demeanor at the table.
Milos, if I put on the right side of the table Chris Bumstead, Ramon, Wesley, and Urs, and they all order steak, and I put it on the right side of the table Samson, Derek, Hadi, and Nick Walker, and they all order steak, you can clearly see the difference of size between classic physique and open bodybuilders. These guys are just bigger with a t-shirt. They just look different than those guys. It's a different category. It's different.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
Yes. Hey, so I don't know. We're gonna do some women too, or what we got going on?
Well, I'm going to tell you who was the most impressive woman in Prague.
You got to go with for wellness. You got to go with Cena because
Oh man,
she won in Romania, and I don't know. I was looking like, okay, does she look too big? Because is it like almost like a Ronnie-esque wellness type of feeling because of the overwhelming glutes? I mean, the glutes is just like, from the angle I was at, you could see just the hanging part of the glute. It was just diabolical, man. It was like,
so this girl,
glutes. Right?
so Chris, this girl was 7th in Brazil a couple of weeks before. Too big was the feedback, I think.
I mean, the glutes are the legs.
Then she came to Romania with the new pro there, Maria. Tariq, you judged them.
Maria Patrizzi, yeah.
She's smaller, small waist. You saw her at Prague.
Yes.
Beautiful glutes, but same outcome as Romania, Tariq. And why is that, do you think?
So Patricia, aesthetically, one of the things that people need to take in consideration is this. The wellness category is an imbalanced category. Your lower body cannot be as big as your upper body, cannot be as muscular as your lower body. However, your glutes must be balanced with your legs. And that is one of the things that wellness competitors sometimes they need to work on. We get girls that they have great glutes, but the legs are undersized. We get girls that the legs are oversized and the glutes are undersized. In the case of Maria Patrizzi from Brazil, she has tremendous leg development, but the quads are overpowering her lower half. Okay. That's one thing she needs to change. She needs to change her quad workout. If you look at her quads, especially for her side, they're overpowering her posing. I'm going to get a picture of her right here for you guys. And, she does a great job kind of hiding. I think that's a feedback she's gotten before. But if you look at it, these are quite big quads for a girl that is, you can just see they're coming out of the whole frame, So I just think that, if you compare her quads with Franciele Matos, with Sina Teresa, with Isa Pereira, their quads are a bit smaller. And that's something to be said, because in wellness, we want them to have big quads, but Maria Patrizzi needs to just minimize a little bit of the quads.
Wait, so you think Isa's quad? I think Isa's quads are bigger than this from the side.
No. I'm going to show you another picture here.
This almost looked like the hamstrings are less dominant. You said you don't think
right here. So Chris, look at this. You see here, we're looking at the glutes. We have the hamstrings, but you got the quads that are kind of taking over a little bit of the back pose, right? The quads are taking over a little bit of the back pose.
So you think some of these girls are pushing on that quad to try to make it flare more, though?
Well, there's another factor here. If you look at her toes, they're to the outside, right? So that also emphasizes the quads. Now you look at this picture, and the first thing you're looking at is she's got great glutes, but man, the quads are overemphasized. And now you look at a picture of Sina Teresa, right? And it doesn't, even though she has the legs to the side, you are not saying, oh my God, the quads are overpowering. It's a little bit more.
She's much bigger, though. She's much bigger in overall, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Sina Teresa.
The black girl is much bigger in overall.
She's a lot taller, right?
Yeah.
She's a lot taller. So, you need to take that in consideration. If you're a shorter bikini competitor, if you're a shorter wellness competitor, you are adding a lot of muscle to your lower half. You might you might have to, downsize so you don't look out of proportion. If you're a tall, if you're AJ's height and you're doing wellness, you're going to have a much bigger leg than Sina Teresa.
So those quads are not too big, as you're saying, for her hands.
No, these quads are great quads for her height and for her glutes. And if you look at, what's her name here? Let me get a picture of her. Maria Patricia, her quads are a bit overpowering on the back pose. They needed to be just a little bit smaller. My recommendation to her would be just close in the toes so that your quads don't look overpowering on the back pose. Now,
you say that, and then she go to the show and do that, and then the girls that got their toes out, they overpower her, and then
no, Chris, no, because she already has.
Let
me just. She turned pro with me in Romania. Okay,
right.
She turned pro with me in Romania, so she's a great competitor. She turned pro, and then on the following day, I went up to her and I said, "You should do the pro show," and she went on to place second. So she's doing incredible. She just needs to correct one minor thing, which is making sure the quads don't overpower the glutes. If she does that, then she's good to go.
Well, she's going to compete next week in Alicante.
She's competing this weekend in Spain.
So both of you, AJ and Chris, both of you are huge fans of hers. Go ahead and tell her that my advice would be, after judging her in Romania, they can't even contain. Send her, go into her DM, okay, and say, listen, slide a DM in there and say, just get your toes a little bit in so that the quads don't overpower the glutes.
We'll tell her, Robert Phil, her coach, this, and he'll have to inform her. One quick question about the girls. A lot of girls have been asking me, Tarek, I'm in Prague. Valerie Accord, who won out of, I think it was 30 girls, one of the hardest girls in the lineup. She's completely different to the winner of the Olympia. What's her name? What's the Olympia winner again?
That would be Laura Lee Chapados.
Yeah. So she was very hard, and she won the show, and she was like 10th. 2 weeks later, she was told she was too hard. So she came here. She's a little bit fuller, but kind of the same, and she wins. What should the girls who do bikini, should they roll, like what type of criteria should they go for if they want to place well at the Olympia?
So, it all depends, first of all. If Valeria Fedorenko, that's another competitor that turned pro with me at the Olympia Amateur in Romania, okay? Yeah. And she has a very tall, athletic physique. Her genetics are favorable. And my feedback on Olympia News was that she would, she would contain the conditioning. I would recommend that she come in a little bit fuller so I don't see any separation on the quads. Okay. Now, still, she's an incredible competitor, right? In order to beat this physique, you got to have incredible genetics. You got to have the glutes that this girl has, which is amazing. And you got to be just a little bit softer than her. And in my personal opinion, there wasn't anybody there. To win a show, you don't have to be perfect in all criterias, right? Samson Dauda needed to be harder at the Mr. Olympia, but still, he won the show convincingly. I voted for him in prejudging and finals. Valeria here, my feedback to her is, in order for you to be successful at the Olympia, you need to soften up about 5%. But still, looking at her physique, I can clearly see why she won, because this is a very good competitor.
If I might chip in here, it's kind of sad that competitors have to spoil their condition to be liked.
Yes.
I mean, when you say, okay, soften up, eat something, lose the separation. It's going to be better. I understand that that's what you guys want to see it, but those girls are training so hard, dieting so hard, and they achieve that crazy look. It's going to be penalized. Go the other way.
It is part of the criteria.
Yeah,
It's called soft separation. Right here, she needs to be a little bit fuller so she loses some of the lines on her legs. Jennifer Ronzetti lost the Olympia to Angelica Teixeira because when they both turned to the back, Jennifer Ronzetti had a few lines on her hamstrings, and we don't want to see those lines on her hamstrings. Now, AJ, I do agree with you that she is maybe a bit hard, but still, she's a phenomenal competitor, and the feedback is soften up 5%.
Okay. Can I just ask you the questions? Because I'm not so much into the, female.
We understand. You just like the guy.
I like man's ass.
We understand that. Okay.
No,
That's been your reputation.
Here's my question. Legs are not the area that softens up first. Legs are usually harder than the upper body. So in order to soften the legs, you might completely soften your upper body and screwed up the look. I mean, Chris, how long would it take you to lose separation on your legs and quads?
I need a month and a half, 2.
Yeah, but you can lose abs very, very fast. You know what I mean?
But Tariq, one last thing.
Calm down, AJ. Yeah. Calm down.
Should the other girls competing in bikini put role model after Valeria's type of conditioning, or the Olympia girl?
I don't know who placed second.
No, there's regular other bikini girls who are competing.
No, so you have to look at her physique and you have to say, okay, this girl looks great. She won the show in Prague, but is she the standard? No, she's not the standard. She was just the best competitor on that day, right? So my thing is this, on Olympia News, and Tyler does with the NPC the same thing. She looked incredible. She did this and that, but she could have been a little bit softer here. And then the girls go, okay, she won the show, but she would have been even better if she was softer. So just because you win the show doesn't mean that physique is the standard. Ronnie Coleman won the Olympia, and he never had great abdominals and thighs. Milos Sarcev had better abdominals and thighs than Ronnie Coleman, but Ronnie Coleman was better in other poses.
Yeah. Hey, who wins abs and thighs, me or Chris?
Listen, here's the deal. I love Chris Cormier. He has one of the best sartorius muscles of all times. And I'm going to say, standing there, relaxed, Milos, you look like a statue. I remember looking at pictures and going, I don't want to look like anybody else in the world. I just want to look at Milos. I just want to be like Milos. But when it comes to bodybuilding, I got to go with Chris Cormier. He is truly an incredible bodybuilder. He's got the Versace shirt. It looked like he got done just giving massages in West Hollywood.
Before we go to Romania, Horse MD, Milos, your guy, what does he's losing a lot in the back shots.
Yes.
What is the goal to improve those shots? Because he looks so beautiful from the front, from the side. He's got so good energy, stage presence. Like he's really like excited, and he's like from the front is just like, but from the back,
Yeah, that's a big problem there. Tarek and I were just discussing that. That one pose he loses to everybody, not to top 5, but to anybody. Yes, and it's not like he is not training; he's training very hard and all that stuff. So it's something I wish that Chris, you can look at him when he hits the back shot, because frontal biceps is beautiful. Obviously, he pulls the lats out decently. Lat spread from the back, especially, he pulls out the lats completely. If in a side relax, when they go to the side relax and they first move the back, he can pull out the lat completely. So there is some mind muscle connection and lats can come out. But as soon as he lifts his arms in the back of biceps, they disappeared. I think you saw him in both shows. Did he look better? That lat spread. Okay. Go back to lat spread is wonderful. This is wide back, right?
Yeah.
So Chris, if you focus now on that lat, there is a meat to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's meat and a muscle, why it disappears when you lift your arms? So it is a little bit about opposing.
It's more like the frame and the width that the back can go. It still needs a little bit more 3D instead of the 2D. Still needs more, like it don't look like it's thick like that. And in the lat spread, even Lee Haney would hit a lat spread. You can see a distinctive line from the top of the in between the trapezius all the way down to the erectors, all the way down to the trunks.
I'm confused because I gotta agree with Milos. This is a really good back lat spread. It's wide, right? Look.
It's wide.
Look at this coming out. Look at this section here to this. You see this to this distance. This, all he has to do is get this arm and hit a bicep shot. But this here somehow
thickness. It's the thickness. It's not.
Look, this disappears.
It's not thick muscle. It's the width without the thickness. That's what I was saying.
And you're probably right? You're probably right. But
it's underdeveloped right there.
Does he need like 2 years off, Chris? Can this be done in a year? Doesn't this take time?
Yes, but you got to train. You got to train your body to the max in that area. It's not about I'm going to do heavier weight this time. It's about your connection with your bodies, the connection with those teres majors and teres minors. That rhomboid area, all that stuff right there, it needs to be way thickened, and it's nothing but you can't even rush the reps that it will take to make that thick. It's not like, I can get it next month and I could be good. No. It's gonna take some minutes.
If he has a back double biceps, this guy is formidable. And like I was telling Milos, now everybody is gonna be watching for the back double biceps, right?
Same thing like Raphael, you guys judges just watching for him to turn around and show hamstring and glutes, right? And for horse, it's always back to.
And it's been like that. It's like Melvin Anthony, right? You would just wait for him to turn to the back to see the separation. If he had glutes and hamstrings, right? It's like Dorian Yates. He torn his biceps. All the eyes were to his biceps. Ronnie, we were looking at his abdominals and thighs. So it kind of becomes, something that people start paying attention. So he needs to fix that. But anyways, we had a wonderful conversation. I want to first and foremost thank Milos Sarcev, who in my opinion is 10-time Mr. Olympia in podcast. It doesn't get better than you. You know what I mean, Milos? You're here on Olympia TV. You are on the Menace podcast. You're a Cutler cast. There is nobody close to you in terms of knowledge and in terms of popularity. And the women go crazy for you on our podcast.
Where are they?
Right here. Hold on. I had somebody here that sent you a message. Let me find them here.
From Thailand?
But listen, okay. You were teasing me about my vacuum thing.
Hold on, Milos. Dracongus 69. We love you, Milos.
Well, listen, 69 number scares me.
Whoever is Dracongus sounds like a name from Eastern Europe.
Oh,
69. We love us, Milos.
Right. Okay, abdominals and thighs. Martin against Chris Bumstead. Who wins? Okay, now let's revisit that because I didn't want to jump into your guys' words. You know how I hate ab vacuum? Okay? I do. I don't think it should be even allowed.
Yeah, you should see the
You
six
guys
pack.
are calling for abdominals and thighs, and then you vacuum. I said, vacuum is to vacuum your
So
house.
Milos, you basically you are against Arnold on this. Arnold loves the vacuum. You hate the vacuum. Is that right?
Arnold likes. Okay, look at here. Who wins?
He has
Clearly,
the ability to.
Martin, right?
Yeah.
And Chris, knowing that, he pulls the vacuum. Okay, so now how do you judge vacuum not showing the abs against abdominals that are showing? How do you judge that? It's supposed to be abdominals and thighs.
Listen, if Martin Fitzwater is hitting an abdominals and thighs, and Chris Bumstead is hitting a vacuum, I'm going to vote for Martin Fitzwater to win the shot.
Why?
Because I'm seeing his abs better.
Okay.
The reason, but let me just finish. Milo Sarchev, the reason that the vacuum pose came to evidence, the vacuum is a reaction to the extended stomach, okay? The vacuum is a reaction to the extended stomach. And as you saw with Derek Lunsford in the last Mr. Olympia, you can do the vacuum. We value that. We think that displays that you don't have an distended stomach, which is a good thing, but you need to hit the abdominals and thighs for us to see it. And he did. So in this case, you hit your abs and thighs, you get compared, and then you hit your vacuum to also display to the judges, hey, right here, I don't have a distended stomach. Everything is under control. I not only have the abs, but I have a good midsection.
So
but if you don't hit the abs and thighs, you're going to lose the pose. Like Derek lost in 2022, 2023, when he won the Olympia, he was the last one on that pose because we needed to see the abs and thighs.
Hey, Derek, I'm gonna cut this out and put it on my Instagram.
Important. That was important. People didn't know that.
You need to hit the abs and thighs.
There you go.
Okay.
And in this shot here, it's not only the abs and thighs, but it's also the thickness on Martin Fitzwater's legs.
Yeah, the quad's crazy.
Look at the size of his quads. This is open bodybuilding, and this is classic physique.
And 212.
And very young and got a long career ahead of him that's going to be, I think it's going to get better and better. I think Martin's going to be pushing closer to that top spot, maybe a top crocodile one day. What do you think?
And Chris, he's doing Pittsburgh Pro, he's doing the Dubai Pro, and he's doing the FIBO.
He's going to get some money, man.
It's $100,000 in Pittsburgh. Tyler said, I'm not messing around, Tarek. I'm going to give $100,000. So it's incredible. The prize money is exploding. Jake went on stage and said, here's $600,000. I thought about kidnapping Samson.
He made out like a bandit that night.
600,000.
And he said that's for this year.
The belt.
No, Samson Dauda literally robbed the Mr. Olympia. He took 600,000. He got the ring. He got the belt. He got the golden sandal. I mean, I don't know what else. You know, he took everything.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to thank the mind, Milo Sarchev. He's the Mr. Olympia podcast. I don't blame Jay Cutler for having him on his website every weekend. The Menace podcast. I understand Dennis paying him more money than Chris Cormier for the show. It's clearly understandable. So I want to have Milos every time on my podcast. Milos, thank you so much.
Anytime. AJ, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you finally.
And AJ, I want to thank you too. It's your first time at Olympia TV, but it won't be your last time. We got tons of comments here, positive people saying, I'm glad you have AJ. None of them came from Dracongas 69. Thank God. That's Milo's friend. That's Milo's friend from the old Yugoslavia, right? Milo,
Yeah, please tell me a female.
is that your friend from old Yugoslavia?
Yeah, I don't know. I just hope it's a female.
Okay,
Even
but
though the name just doesn't sound.
so we had tons of people here that liked AJ. And I also want to thank my co-host from Primetime Muscle. He did a tremendous job as correspondent in Prague. Man, he was wearing a suit. He was doing interviews. He was on stage. I was with Sean Ray at the Sean Ray Classic, and Sean was so mad that Chris was getting all this publicity, you know?
You have great lines in Europe. A lot of people signing autographs. And
you know, Sean Ray and Bob, they're so jealous that Chris is getting all these jobs. They just can't contain their hatred for Chris Cormier's success.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to do what I can for the people.
Rub it in, Chris. Rub it in. You deserve it. My name is Tarek Elgindi with the Mr. Olympia. We'll see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen.